Hello, my name is Gagandeep and I'm a student in the Coventry University. My student ID is 122-83547, and in this video I'm going to talk about my coursework 2 of Foundations of Business Management, which was about pestle analysis for the upcycling firm that's going to be set up in Coventry City Center. So basically, what pestle analysis is? Pestle analysis is in which firms looks upon the macroeconomic factors in terms of six classes that are political, economic, sociocultural, technological, and environmental. These are used by the managers of the firms to understand what's going on in the market in terms of all mentioned six factors. So pastel analysis is not only for the upcycling firm, but it's a necessity for all the firms which are in the environment. So E in pastel stands for economic. What we understand from economic. Economic is like GDP of the country, inflation rates, interest of the consumers, and that's it. So basically, due to this pandemic, there's a hype in between the people to wear upcycled clothes, and it's very good for the upcycling business as the sales of upcycling business roses up from 1 to 5 billion pounds to 142 billion pounds, which is a great success for the upcycling industry. And moreover, clothing industry also contributes 1.2 trillion dollars in the GDP of the GDP of a country. And yes, S in pastel stands for social. What we know, what we can imagine from social. Social is basically related to values for the society, consumer preferences, levels of education, and lifestyles. Mm, Due to the wastage that's happening in the environment, consumers are getting more worried about the environmental situations, and they are now selecting that brands which are upcycling the clothes. So according to a report, till 2050 there are 43 major brands which are going to be 0% gas emissions, and that's a social motive of upcycling business, and it's also opportunity for the upcycling business. So basically, T in pastel stands for technology, and in today's era, we all know about how much technology is important to us. As due to pandemic, we were at our homes, and we ordered something quickly online due to technology, which is a positive factor for all the businesses, and it's also an opportunity for the upcycling business, but somewhere it's also having a negative impact. As suppose I saw a cloth uh, online, and I was having like, I need this brand, so I ordered it. But when I arrived So when the order arrived, it was looking somewhere different, because in that photo it was fully blacked, but when it arrived it was some grayish. So this must be a disadvantage for all the businesses as well as for the upcycling business. So E in pastel stands for environment function, which focuses on pollution, recycling, and being eco-friendly towards the environment. Today's fast fashion has a direct impact on the environment. According to some reports, most of the industries, clothing industries, are non-natural fibers from petrochemicals, which which releases nitrous oxide, and is 310 times dangerous than CO2. So this is a negative impact on the environment. But for upcycling business, this is a good point. It's an advantage, as upcycling business is not producing anything. It's just upcycling the clothes. It's just joining two or three clothes, and in joining the clothes, there is no harm for the environment. L in PESTEL stands for legal. So, what do you mean by legal? Legal means working within the framework which is set by the government. This factor could have a direct impact. This factor could have a threat to the upcycling clothing industry. This factor must be having a negative, or you can say, threat to the upcycling industry, as there is a trademark law under which it tells us about the manufacturer, so that customers must not get confused who's the real manufacturer. So so in upcycling, there's as I said earlier, there were two or three clothes joining together, so that it can make a new cloth out of that, and we will get confused, or the consumer gets confused about who the manufacturer is. So this is totally opposite of the opportunity, as it's breaking the law here. So yes, it can be negative impact for the upcycling business. So P in PESTEL stands for political. Political basically means taxation policies, privatization, environmental legislation, health and safety regulations, public expenditure, and many more. Clothing industry is directly having impact on the health of the employers, as the places for work for the workers is not too good, and it can directly have effect on their lungs, respiratory system, and all, which can be a serious issue. So this is a threat for other businesses, but not for the upcycling business, because there's not so much production so that it can impact on the health of their employers. And moreover, if the upcycling business is setting up, it must be looking for all these factors to be accomplished. So here was a brief discussion of what's PESTEL, and according to these six factors, I think that most influential factors in terms of opportunity is environment, as upcycling business is not harming the environment, as it's just upcycling the old clothes into new. In terms of threat, the most influential factor is legal, as under legal there is a trademark law which upcycling business is not handling properly and going against laws. All about my foundations of business management coursework to report.